Chapter 1. The Beautiful Blonde. Lenny Samuel was a private eye who worked in his small office located in West Los Angeles. He had a knack for solving cases that seemed impossible to others. One day, a beautiful blonde woman named Helen Garfield knocked on his door seeking his help. Helen was in distress as her twin sister, Elaine Garfield, had disappeared a week ago. The sisters had made plans to have dinner together, but Elaine didn't show up. Helen tried calling her sister, but there was no answer. Elaine didn't even show up at work, leaving abruptly in the middle of the day without telling anyone. Helen had gone to her sister's apartment, but no one was there. It was unusual for Elaine to behave this way, and Helen was worried that her sister might be in danger. Lenny listened carefully to Helen's story and promised to help her find her sister. He asked her a few questions to gather more information, such as Elaine's last known location and whether she had any enemies or had been in any trouble recently. After getting the details, Lenny assured Helen that he would do his best to find her sister and asked her to leave her contact information with him. Helen left the office, feeling hopeful that Lenny could help her. Lenny sat at his desk, pondering over the case. He knew that this was going to be a challenging one, but he was determined to solve it. He decided to start by visiting Elaine's workplace to see if anyone had seen or heard anything. As he closed his eyes to think, he felt a chill run down his spine. Something was off about this case, and he was determined to uncover the truth. Lenny knew that the beautiful blonde woman who had just left his office had taken his full attention, and this case would be the one to test his skills as a private eye. Will Lenny Samuel find Elaine Garfield and uncover the truth behind her mysterious disappearance? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 2. The Workplace. Lenny Samuel arrived at Elaine Garfield's workplace early the next morning. He walked through the doors of a large corporate building and made his way to the reception desk. "Good morning, ma'am. I'm Lenny Samuel, a private investigator. I'm here to ask some questions about Elaine Garfield," Lenny said to the receptionist. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, looked at Lenny curiously. "I'm sorry, sir, but I cannot provide you any confidential information without proper authorization. You will have to speak to our Human Resources Department," she replied. Lenny nodded understandingly and asked for directions to the HR department. He walked down a long hallway and found a door with a sign that read Human Resources. He knocked on the door and was greeted by a stern-looking woman who introduced herself as the HR manager. "I'm Lenny Samuel, a private investigator. I'm investigating the disappearance of Elaine Garfield, and I was hoping you could help me with some information," Lenny said. The HR manager sighed and asked Lenny to sit down. She explained that Elaine was a model employee and had never caused any trouble at work. However, she did mention that Elaine had been acting strange in the days leading up to her disappearance. "Strange how?" Lenny asked. She seemed distracted and kept looking over her shoulder. She also took a few personal days off, which was unlike her, the HR manager replied. Lenny took note of this and thanked the HR manager for her time. As he left the building, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. He decided to follow up on Elaine's personal days off and see if he could find out more about her behavior in the days leading up to her disappearance. Lenny Samuel made his way back to his office, deep in thought. He knew that he needed more information to solve the case, but he was running out of leads. He decided to start by investigating Elaine's personal days off. He went to her apartment building and asked the doorman if he had seen her recently. The doorman told Lenny that Elaine had taken a few days off, but he didn't know where she had gone. Lenny decided to search Elaine's apartment for any clues. He found a few personal items, such as her wallet and keys, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As he was leaving the apartment, Lenny noticed a neighbor watching him curiously. He approached her and introduced himself as a private investigator. The neighbor, a middle-aged woman, told Lenny that she had seen Elaine leaving the apartment building with a man a few days before her disappearance. She seemed hesitant, like she didn't want to go with him, but he persuaded her, the neighbor said. Lenny asked the neighbor to describe the man, but all she could remember was that he was tall and had dark hair. Lenny was grateful for the information but knew that it wasn't enough to solve the case. He decided to put up flyers around the neighborhood asking for information about Elaine's disappearance. Days turned into weeks, and Lenny was running out of leads. Just as he was about to give up, he received a call from a man who claimed to have information about Elaine's disappearance. Lenny Samuel was surprised when he received a call from a man claiming to have information about Elaine Garfield's disappearance. He quickly grabbed a notepad and pen, ready to take down any details. "Hello, Mr. Samuel. My name is Jack, and I think I might have some information about the missing girl," the man said. Lenny listened intently as Jack explained that he had seen Elaine with a man at a local bar the night she disappeared. Jack described the man as tall and muscular, with a distinctive tattoo on his right arm. Lenny thanked Jack for the information and asked him to meet him at his office to provide more details. Jack agreed and hung up the phone. Lenny's curiosity was piqued by the tip-off. He decided to research the local bars in the area and see if any of them matched Jack's description. He spent hours looking through various websites and social media pages, trying to find any information that could lead him to the right bar. Eventually, he found a picture of a man with a distinctive tattoo on his right arm, standing in front of a bar called the Blue Parrot. Lenny headed to the bar immediately and began asking the bartender if he had seen Elaine Garfield on the night in question. The bartender nodded and told Lenny that she had been there with a man who matched Jack's description. Lenny thanked the bartender and asked if he could speak to any of the bar patrons who had been there that night. The bartender pointed him in the direction of a man who had been sitting at the end of the bar. Lenny approached the man and introduced himself as a private investigator. The man, who was tall and muscular with a tattoo on his right arm, looked at Lenny with a cold stare. "What do you want?" the man asked. Lenny knew that he had found his suspect, but he had to be careful. He took a deep breath and began to ask questions. Will Lenny Samuel finally solve the case and bring Elaine Garfield's disappearance to a close? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 3. The Suspect. Lenny Samuel knew that he had found his suspect when he came face to face with the man at the Blue Parrot who matched Jack's description. The man had a tattoo on his right arm and looked intimidating. Lenny introduced himself and asked the man if he knew anything about Elaine Garfield's disappearance. The man denied any involvement and told Lenny to leave him alone. Lenny knew that he needed more evidence before he could accuse the man of any wrongdoing. He decided to dig deeper into the man's background and see if he had any criminal history. Lenny went back to his office and started searching through public records. He found out that the man's name was Jack Smith, and he had a criminal record for assault and battery. Lenny knew that this information was enough to warrant further investigation. He decided to tail Jack and see if he led him to any clues. He followed Jack for a few days, but Jack was careful and didn't do anything suspicious. Lenny knew that he needed to be more proactive and come up with a new plan. He decided to set up a fake meeting with Jack to try and get more information out of him. He called Jack and told him that he had some information about Elaine Garfield's disappearance and wanted to meet. Jack agreed to the meeting, and they arranged to meet at a local cafe the next day. Lenny arrived at the cafe early and waited for Jack. He watched as Jack walked in, looking around suspiciously. Jack sat down at the table, and Lenny began to ask him questions. "Jack, I know that you were at the Blue Parrot with Elaine Garfield. What happened that night?" Lenny asked. Jack looked at Lenny with a cold stare, but Lenny persisted. He knew that he had to get the information out of Jack. Lenny Samuel sat across from Jack Smith at a local cafe, trying to get more information about Elaine Garfield's disappearance. Jack was reluctant to talk, but Lenny knew that he had to keep pushing. "Jack, I know that you were at the Blue Parrot with Elaine Garfield. What happened that night?" Lenny asked again. Jack remained silent for a few moments, but then he finally spoke. "I didn't do anything to her, I swear. We just had a few drinks, and then she left with another guy," Jack said. Lenny could see that Jack was nervous, but he had to keep pressing for more information. "What was the other guy's name? Do you remember anything about him?" Lenny asked. Jack thought for a moment before responding. "His name was Frank, but I don't know anything else about him. He was a stranger to me," Jack said. Lenny knew that he had to find this Frank character and see if he knew anything about Elaine's disappearance. He thanked Jack for the information and told him that he would be in touch. As Lenny left the cafe, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off about Jack's story. He decided to do some more digging and see if he could find any more information about Jack and his connection to Elaine. Days turned into weeks, and Lenny worked tirelessly to gather more information. He finally got a break when he received a tip-off about a man named Frank who matched Jack's description. Lenny tracked down Frank and questioned him about his connection to Elaine. Frank denied any involvement and told Lenny that he had never met Elaine before. Lenny knew that he was getting closer to the truth, but he needed more evidence to prove Jack and Frank's involvement in Elaine's disappearance. He decided to set up a surveillance operation to keep a closer eye on them. As Lenny sat in his car, watching Jack and Frank's every move, he saw something that made his heart race. Will Lenny finally uncover the truth about Elaine's disappearance? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 4. The Breakthrough. Lenny Samuel had been tirelessly working on the case of Elaine Garfield's disappearance. He had followed up on every lead and finally got a break when he received a tip-off about a man named Frank who matched Jack's description. Lenny tracked down Frank and questioned him about his connection to Elaine, but he denied any involvement. Lenny knew that he had to keep digging and set up a surveillance operation to keep a closer eye on Jack and Frank. Days turned into weeks, and Lenny sat in his car, watching their every move. He saw them meet up several times and exchange packages. Lenny knew that this was his chance to uncover the truth. He decided to follow Frank when he left his meeting with Jack. He trailed him to a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. Lenny watched as Frank went into one of the rooms and waited for him to come back out. After a few hours, Frank emerged from the room, looking nervous. Lenny knew that he had to act fast before Frank got away. He got out of his car and approached Frank. "Frank, I'm Lenny Samuel, a private investigator. I've been investigating the disappearance of Elaine Garfield, and I think you might know something about it," Lenny said. Frank looked at Lenny with a scared expression, knowing that he had been caught. He finally confessed to being involved in Elaine's disappearance and told Lenny where she was being held captive. Lenny wasted no time and called the police to let them know about the breakthrough. He then raced to the location Frank had given him, hoping that Elaine was still alive. As he arrived at the location, he saw a rundown warehouse surrounded by a high fence. He could hear muffled cries coming from inside. Lenny knew that he had to act fast and find a way inside. Lenny Samuel had finally received a breakthrough in the case of Elaine Garfield's disappearance. He had followed up on a tip-off about a man named Frank who had confessed to being involved in Elaine's disappearance and had given Lenny the location where she was being held captive. Lenny raced to the location, a rundown warehouse surrounded by a high fence. He could hear muffled cries coming from inside, and he knew that he had to act fast. He searched for a way inside and finally found a hole in the fence. He carefully squeezed through and made his way inside the warehouse. The warehouse was dark, and Lenny had to use his flashlight to see. He could hear the sound of footsteps, and he knew that he was getting closer to Elaine. He turned a corner and saw her, tied up and gagged. He rushed over to her and untied her, removing the gag from her mouth. Elaine was scared and confused, but Lenny reassured her that she was safe now. As they made their way out of the warehouse, Lenny saw Frank and Jack approaching. He knew that he had to act fast to keep them from escaping. "Lenny, I can explain. Just hear us out," Jack said. Lenny shook his head and signaled for the police, who had arrived at the scene. Frank and Jack were arrested and taken into custody, and Elaine was taken to the hospital for a checkup. Lenny had finally solved the case and had brought Elaine back to safety. He felt a sense of relief and satisfaction, knowing that he had done his job. As he sat in his office writing up his report, he couldn't help but feel grateful that he had been able to bring closure to Elaine's family and friends. He knew that he had made a difference in their lives, and that was what made his job worthwhile. Will Lenny Samuel continue to solve cases and make a difference in people's lives? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 5. The New Case. After successfully solving the case of Elaine Garfield's disappearance, Lenny Samuel was back in his office, waiting for his next client. He didn't have to wait long before the phone rang. "Hello, Lenny Samuel, private investigator," he said, answering the call. "Mr. Samuel, my name is Rachel Johnson. I need your help. My father, Robert Johnson, has been missing for a week, and the police haven't been able to find him. I'm hoping that you can help," Rachel said. Lenny listened intently as Rachel explained that her father had been acting strange in the days leading up to his disappearance. He had been acting paranoid and had been making strange phone calls. Lenny agreed to take on the case and arranged to meet with Rachel the next day. As he hung up the phone, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. This was a new case, and he was ready to get to work. The next day, Lenny met with Rachel at her father's house. She showed him around and pointed out a few areas that her father had been spending a lot of time in. Lenny took notes and started to piece together a plan. He decided to start by interviewing Robert's friends and family to see if anyone knew anything about his disappearance. He also planned to search Robert's house for any clues that might lead to his whereabouts. As Lenny left Robert's house, he felt a sense of determination. He was going to find Robert Johnson and bring him home to his family. He knew that it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for the challenge. Lenny Samuel had taken on a new case, the disappearance of Robert Johnson. He had started by interviewing Robert's friends and family, searching his house for any clues, and trying to piece together the events leading up to his disappearance. As Lenny interviewed Robert's family and friends, he learned that Robert had been acting strange in the days leading up to his disappearance. He had been making strange phone calls and had been acting paranoid. Lenny also discovered that Robert had been having financial problems, and he had been in debt to several loan sharks. Lenny knew that this could be a motive for his disappearance. He decided to investigate further and started to look into Robert's finances. He searched through his bank statements and credit card bills, looking for any irregularities. After hours of searching, Lenny finally found a clue. He discovered that Robert had taken out a large loan from a loan shark just days before he disappeared. Lenny knew that this could be the break that he needed. He decided to track down the loan shark and question him about his involvement in Robert's disappearance. He spent days following leads and finally tracked down the loan shark's location. As he approached the location, he saw a group of men standing outside, looking menacing. Lenny knew that he had to be careful and decided to approach them cautiously. "Excuse me, I'm looking for a man named Tony. I was told that he might be able to help me," Lenny said. The men looked at Lenny suspiciously, but after a few moments, one of them spoke up. "Tony's not here, but I can help you. What do you want?" the man asked. Lenny took a deep breath and started to ask questions about Robert's disappearance. The man denied any involvement, but Lenny knew that he had to keep pressing. Lenny Samuel had been investigating the disappearance of Robert Johnson, and he had finally found a lead. He had tracked down a loan shark named Tony and questioned him about his involvement in Robert's disappearance. Tony had denied any involvement, but Lenny knew that he had to keep pressing. He decided to tail Tony and see if he led him to any clues. He followed Tony for a few days and saw him meet up with a few suspicious-looking men. Lenny knew that he was getting closer to the truth. One night, Lenny saw Tony and the men carrying a large bag into a warehouse. He knew that this was his chance to uncover the truth. He waited until they left the warehouse and then snuck inside. As he looked around, he saw the large bag in the corner of the room. He approached it cautiously and slowly opened it. Inside the bag, he found Robert Johnson tied up and gagged. Lenny quickly untied him and removed the gag from his mouth. Robert was weak and confused, but Lenny reassured him that he was safe now. Lenny called the police and told them about his discovery. They arrived at the warehouse and arrested Tony and his men. As Lenny sat in his office writing up his report, he couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He had solved the case of Robert Johnson's disappearance and had brought the perpetrators to justice. He had once again made a difference in someone's life, and that was what made his job worthwhile. Will Lenny Samuel continue to solve cases and make a difference in people's lives? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 6. The Mysterious Heist. Lenny Samuel had successfully solved the cases of Elaine Garfield's disappearance and Robert Johnson's disappearance. He was back in his office, waiting for his next client. He didn't have to wait long before the phone rang. "Hello, Lenny Samuel, private investigator," he answered. "Mr. Samuel, my name is John Baker. I need your help. My art gallery was robbed last night, and the thief stole a valuable painting. I'm hoping that you can help me get it back," John said. Lenny agreed to take on the case and arranged to meet with John at his gallery the next day. When he arrived, John showed him the security footage from the night of the robbery. Lenny watched the footage and noticed that the thief was wearing a mask, making it hard to identify him. However, he did notice that the thief had a distinct limp, which could be a clue. He decided to start by questioning John's employees and anyone who had been in the gallery in the days leading up to the robbery. He also planned to investigate the background of the stolen painting and see if it had any ties to any known art thieves. As Lenny left the gallery, he couldn't help but feel a sense of intrigue. This was a new case, and he was determined to solve it and bring the thief to justice. Lenny Samuel had taken on a new case, the mysterious heist of a valuable painting from John Baker's art gallery. He had started by reviewing security footage from the night of the robbery and had noticed that the thief had a distinct limp. Lenny decided to start by questioning John's employees and anyone who had been in the gallery in the days leading up to the robbery. He hoped that someone might have noticed something suspicious. As Lenny interviewed John's employees, he learned that one of them, a security guard named Tom, had called in sick the night of the robbery. Lenny knew that this could be a potential lead. He decided to investigate further and started to look into Tom's background. He searched through his social media accounts and discovered that Tom had been posting pictures of expensive items that he couldn't afford, including a new car and designer clothes. Lenny knew that this could be a motive for the robbery. He decided to tail Tom and see if he led him to any clues. He followed Tom for a few days and saw him meet up with a few suspicious-looking men. Lenny knew that he was getting closer to the truth. One night, Lenny saw Tom and the men carrying a large canvas into a warehouse. He knew that this was his chance to uncover the truth. He waited until they left the warehouse and then snuck inside. As he looked around, he saw the stolen painting in the corner of the room. He approached it cautiously and carefully removed it from its frame. As he left the warehouse, he saw Tom and the men approaching. Lenny knew that he had to act fast and quickly ran to his car with the stolen painting in hand. Lenny Samuel had been investigating the heist of a valuable painting from John Baker's art gallery. He had discovered that one of John's employees, a security guard named Tom, had called in sick on the night of the robbery. Lenny had tailed Tom and had discovered the stolen painting in a warehouse. He had managed to retrieve the painting and was on his way back to John's gallery when he saw Tom and the men approaching. Lenny knew that he had to act fast and quickly drove away. He called the police and told them about his discovery and the location of the stolen painting. The police arrived at the warehouse and arrested Tom and his accomplices. Lenny was relieved that he had been able to catch the perpetrators and return the stolen painting to John. As he sat in his office writing up his report, he couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He had solved another case and had brought the culprits to justice. He knew that his job was not just about solving cases, but also about helping people. He felt grateful that he was able to make a difference in people's lives, one case at a time. Will Lenny Samuel continue to solve cases and make a difference in people's lives? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 7. The Haunted House. Lenny Samuel had been busy solving cases and making a difference in people's lives. He was back in his office, waiting for his next client. He didn't have to wait long before the phone rang. "Hello, Lenny Samuel, private investigator," he answered. "Mr. Samuel, my name is Maria Gomes. I need your help. My family and I recently moved into a new house, but strange things have been happening. We hear strange noises at night, and we feel like we are being watched. We think our house might be haunted, and we don't know what to do," Maria said. Lenny listened intently as Maria explained the situation. He had never dealt with a haunted house before, but he was determined to help the Gomez family. He arranged to meet with Maria and her family the next day at their house. When he arrived, he could sense a feeling of unease in the air. The house was old and creaky, and Lenny couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. Maria showed him around the house and pointed out a few areas where they had experienced strange occurrences. Lenny took notes and started to piece together a plan. He decided to start by investigating the history of the house and see if there had been any deaths or tragedies that could explain the strange occurrences. He also planned to bring in a paranormal investigator to help him determine if there was any supernatural activity. As Lenny left the Gomez's house, he couldn't help but feel a sense of intrigue. This was a new case, and he was determined to uncover the truth and bring peace to the Gomez family. Lenny Samuel had taken on a new case, investigating the mysterious occurrences in Maria Gomez's supposedly haunted house. He had started by investigating the history of the house and had brought in a paranormal investigator to help him determine if there was any supernatural activity. As Lenny investigated, he learned that the house had a dark past. Several deaths had occurred in the house, including a family who had died in a fire many years ago. Lenny knew that this could be a potential explanation for the strange occurrences. He decided to investigate further and started to look into the family's history. He found out that the family had been involved in a bitter feud with their neighbors, which could have led to their tragic fate. Lenny also decided to spend a night in the house, hoping to experience any strange occurrences firsthand. He set up cameras and audio equipment to record any paranormal activity. As he settled in for the night, he started to feel a sense of unease. He heard strange noises and felt like he was being watched. Suddenly, he heard a loud bang and felt a cold breeze. He quickly reviewed the footage and audio recordings, but there was no explanation for the strange occurrences. Lenny knew that he had to keep investigating. He decided to bring in a psychic medium to help him determine if there was any spiritual activity in the house. The psychic medium arrived and quickly picked up on a dark energy in the house. She told Lenny that there was a vengeful spirit in the house, seeking revenge on those who had wronged it in the past. Lenny knew that he had to take action. He contacted the descendants of the family who had died in the fire and helped them reconcile with their neighbors. He also performed a spiritual cleansing of the house, hoping to rid it of any negative energy. As he left the Gomez's house, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. He had solved the mystery of the haunted house and had brought peace to the Gomez family. Will Lenny Samuel continue to solve cases and make a difference in people's lives? Find out in the next chapter. Chapter 8. The Final Case. Lenny Samuel had solved countless cases and had made a difference in many people's lives. He was back in his office, reflecting on his experiences and thinking about what was next. He didn't have to wait long before the phone rang. "Hello, Lenny Samuel, private investigator," he answered. "Mr. Samuel, my name is Sarah Johnson. My husband has been missing for a few days, and I'm worried. He left a note saying that he needed to clear his head and left without any other information. I'm hoping that you can help me find him," Sarah said. Lenny listened intently as Sarah explained the situation. He knew that this could be a potential lead. He arranged to meet with Sarah the next day to start his investigation. As he arrived at Sarah's house, he noticed that she was visibly distressed. Lenny took notes and started to piece together a plan. He decided to start by looking into her husband's background and see if there were any clues to his disappearance. He also planned to interview Sarah's family and friends and anyone who might have seen him recently. As Lenny left Sarah's house, he couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility. This was a serious case, and he was determined to find Sarah's husband and bring him back safely. Lenny Samuel had taken on his final case, investigating the disappearance of Sarah Johnson's husband. He had started by looking into her husband's background and had planned to interview Sarah's family and friends to gather more information. As Lenny investigated, he learned that Sarah's husband had been going through a difficult time at work and had been struggling with anxiety and stress. Lenny knew that this could be a potential explanation for his disappearance. He decided to start by looking into his workplace and talking to his colleagues and boss. He also planned to check his financial records to see if there were any suspicious withdrawals or payments. As Lenny was leaving Sarah's house, he received a call from one of her husband's colleagues. They had received a message from him stating that he had gone away to clear his head and that he was safe. Lenny knew that this could be a potential lead, but he was still concerned about Sarah's husband's well-being. He decided to follow up with his colleague and see if they could provide any more information. After a few more phone calls, Lenny was able to determine that Sarah's husband had checked into a remote cabin in the woods to get away from the stresses of everyday life. Lenny decided to go to the cabin to check on him and make sure he was okay. As Lenny arrived at the cabin, he noticed that Sarah's husband was visibly distressed. He talked to him and listened to his concerns. Lenny advised him to seek professional help and to talk to his loved ones about his struggles. As Lenny left the cabin, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. He had found Sarah's husband and had ensured that he was safe. He also knew that he had made a difference in his life and had helped him get the support he needed. As Lenny returned to his office, he reflected on his experiences as a private investigator. He knew that his job was not just about solving cases, but also about helping people. He felt grateful that he was able to make a difference in people's lives, one case at a time. Lenny decided that this would be his final case. He was ready to retire and enjoy his life, knowing that he had left a positive impact on the world. Will Lenny Samuel enjoy his retirement and look back on his life with pride? Find out in the epilogue. Epilogue. Lenny Samuel had solved countless cases and had made a difference in many people's lives. He had recently taken on his final case, investigating the disappearance of Sarah Johnson's husband. As he reflected on his experiences as a private investigator, he knew that his job was not just about solving cases, but also about helping people. He felt grateful that he was able to make a difference in people's lives, one case at a time. Lenny decided to retire and enjoy his life. He spent his days reading books, watching movies, and spending time with his loved ones. He knew that he had left a positive impact on the world and was content with his life. One day, Lenny received a call from an old client, thanking him for his help and telling him about the positive impact he had on their life. This call made Lenny realize the true value of his work and the impact he had on people's lives. Lenny decided to write a book about his experiences as a private investigator. He wanted to share his stories and inspire others to make a positive impact in the world. As he wrote, memories flooded back of his cases and the people he had helped. He wrote about the haunted house, the missing sister, the stolen painting, and the many other cases he had solved. He knew that his book would be a testament to the importance of helping others and making a difference in the world. He hoped that his book would inspire others to pursue a career in helping others and making a difference in the world. As he finished his book, Lenny felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. He knew that he had left a positive impact on the world, and he was content with his life. He knew that his legacy would live on and that his stories would continue to inspire others for generations to come.